CEO for the internet businesses, where we set up internet businesses by ourselves, as well as we bought in companies, and I was on the board, I was serving on the board of companies, which brought me also to Boston, Massachusetts, where I was working as a CEO for a company which we bought, and worked there for a while, always with very international teams, connected with people like Peter Senge and Otto Schammer from the Sloan School of MIT, as well as Robert Keegan, who developed this psychology model of maturity in Harvard. And I tried to learn from them and put that into consideration of my work, which brought me then at the end to Google in Dublin, where I was heading the Scandinavian and Benelux area. And after a while there, I decided to quit and to found our nonprofit association, which is Wisdom Together, which is in Germany, in Munich registered nonprofit association, but it's working all over the world with conferences, retreats, workshops. And I'm working as an executive coach and interims manager as well, and bring that notion of purpose, meaning, and business experience together. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Alfred. So we're going to jump over to Yan Delgado. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself.
So Yan Delgado, I'm running a group called Hyperion. I was born in Morocco, became a complete French product, where I started to trade options on the floor during 5 years, then bonds. Then I accepted an expat contract for Gibraltar to start private banking with a bank called Indo-Suez at that time. So I've been there, I've been in Gibraltar for the last 20 years. I joined during 10 years Credit Suisse. I used to run the private banking part there. And for the last a bit less than 10 years, we created a group together with Raymond Kirsch and other people such as Federico Anna, Vicente Mancheno, and Stephen, who's in the audience, Stephen Lloyd Morgan. And we basically are doing wealth management, family office, and now real estate and culture.
Okay, so Jose Luis, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to take part on this webinar. My CV is shorter than the ones of my colleagues. I'm Spanish. I was born in Madrid. I'm a journalist as background. I have been working for the media for more than 20 years. I came to Gibraltar and to the region 15 years ago. And from 7 years ago, I joined Yan Delgado and his fantastic team first of all, for the Gibraltar World Music Festival, and then for Brightmed, which is a platform of culture and other things like talks, seminars, film festival, etc.
Okay, so throughout this discussion, I'm going to give a sort of Q&A between you all, and we're going to try and share some key takeaways at the end of the discussion to just underline what it means to build a new and meaningful economy from your different perspectives. So I'm going to start with you, Alfred. You've mentioned Google, and that's very interesting. I'm part of also a franchise that has been powered by Google for Startups. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, you had some control over the top, you engaged with top management team and their financial targets, etc. But your sort of efforts were more about how does this align with what the world and what people need. So tell us about your role and how it evolved in the projects you were able to develop during your time with Google.
So I joined Google in Dublin, the European headquarters, and they asked me to take over the leadership for the Scandinavian and the Benelux territories for their online marketing activities. It was more or less marketing and sales. And when I came to Google, we had and I I was joining the team, there was a kind of red flag and all hands on deck. And I said, what's happening? And they said, we have only 17% growth. And I said, guys, if other areas and other companies would have 17% growth, they would have champagne on the tables. And they said, no, we need 20% year over year plus. So I was questioning that for a while because what we did is more or less pushing companies into growth without asking them whether this is really meaningful what they do. Of course, they should decide by themselves, but the question for me was, shall we push companies into growth through marketing activities and then creating a situation in the world where we are observing a lot of energy costs, where we have a cultural divide, where we have a lot of depression seeing in the world? Or shall we, where Google originally started from, saying don't be evil, thinking about what does it mean and how shall we align our business interests with our social attempt to make the world a better place, what Google always say they do. So I had a lot of conversations with top management people, how we can do that and how we can build on this. And the question was, yeah, Alfred, we need that because we are a listed company and we need to take the advice from the analysts. And I said, I don't think that's true. We are the biggest listed, private owned company in the world, probably at that time, because Sergey and Larry had about 56 or 57% by themselves. So I said, why do you think you should hear what the analysts say and not doing the other way around and trying to educate a market into a certain different direction, which is helpful for the market, for our environment, for our social social beliefs, and taking this social responsibility. And they said, yeah, but recruiting is a hard thing to do because we cannot pay the people so much, so we need actually to have the stock options and have their variety there, and and for that we need this growth. But that's a trap we are going in, because I don't think, and we had other areas where we spoke about later on, but I think there are companies who grow in this world, but not maybe to an extent of 20% plus. Very healthy companies, but also more focusing on purpose and meaning, and focusing how can we contribute to our society and not only to our shareholders. And that is something which I think the current situation is more or less asking us to think about. And I see that on the political level as well as on the business level and organizational level in several countries of this world, that there is a new rethinking of shall we really go for this Wall Street kind of strategy of extremely high growth expectation, or can we be a little bit more flexible and see what is the first thing why we are doing the things, and then we are trying to organize our business accordingly. Which also can be very healthy, as I said. And there are examples, maybe we come later to this, of companies who do that, also in that size. Was that answering the question, Denise, or?
No, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go over to Yan so he can tell us a little bit more. You've explained you have a background in finance and banking, investments, but you're currently the CEO and managing partner of Hyperion Group. Tell us about the group and about your role there.
Well, the group is made of 13 people between Gibraltar and London. We have not less than 10 nationalities, I think, and the same number of languages spoken, which clearly makes a very diverse team. And managing a diverse team is not the same as managing a team in Switzerland, for example, but it's full of incredible joy. We started, in fact, this group based on simply relation with clients. We came, most of us, from Credit Suisse in Gibraltar, and we wanted to create a company in wealth management and family office, but frankly, even the business models was dead already. everything was dead. It was post 2008. So we didn't know if we were doing the right thing. But what came as an intuition was that the need for individuals to have a proper relation and continuity and being able to speak to them about many other things than just money and money and money was the trigger. And they accepted to join us, and here we are. We started Hyperion. So it's pretty much about relation. And when you manage the money of some clients, you in a way read as well their life, because it's made of good and bad things, accident in life as well, and you start to understand that. So we are three partners, equally shareholders. And we have three main activities now. One is wealth management, which became slowly family office, because when we are in private bank today, what's very difficult is to be able to offer all type of services to the client. You have to be segmented and work on certain region only or certain products only. So you can be a great specialist, but sometimes the client and the relation needs a bit more naturally. And within the time, we transformed this wealth management model, which was dead from day one, into family office. And our definition of it was, can we front every actors around the client, lawyers, bankers, any type of advisors, real estate agent, tax advisors, and digest all of this and give a form of peace of mind by reporting all our work to the client. So that works very well as a family office, which we transformed in 2015. And it helped us to have a very transparent and new model, like applying a flat fee, for example, which was not the rule in private banking. Then we, the family office, obviously all clients had, when they wake up in the morning and they have other wishes and they ask you things. So we are like GPs, we are not specialists. So we will search and research to find a solution to their new wishes. And one of the main asset class that they really wanted to go to was obviously real estate. And as a consequence, we created, a few years later, a real group in real estate involving a fund, a development company, and even a real estate agency with license today. So that's how the group is. Obviously, the third leg of the group is the culture, but I will let probably Jose Luis develop this part, which is called the Brightmed. The whole vision at the beginning was, can we offer a nice qualitative event or series of events made in Gibraltar once for all? Why not us? Everybody else shines. Is there any culture in Gibraltar? Obviously, there is a lot, but how do you look at it? So that's the group really. And my role, I believe, it's always questionable to see what is the role of a CEO, the CEO of last few years, the CEO of today, and the CEO of tomorrow. I believe that I'm just facilitating the work of everyone else in the team. They are very experienced people anyway, very strong people around me. So that makes my life easier, really. Managing as well all this diversity and make sure the communication goes. Coming from me, who doesn't speak perfect English, it was a bigger challenge even. We communicate a lot. We managed to reach a lot of goals. And funnily enough, we still are not capable of making one joke that will be understood by everyone else. So that's the only, so we have to transcend ourselves to higher visions and purpose in life, probably. And really that makes the whole story very enjoyable. We're not just looking for maximizing profits all the time and putting high targets, because this is not, we are not really a startup. The average age is higher than the population, and we are not individual startups. But I think it's you, Alfred, who told me once, Confucius used to say, the goal is the journey. And that's exactly what we're living at Hyperion, to the extent that our slogan, and we took like 1 year of meetings to try to come and assess our own values. Our slogan today is, beyond the money, the journey starts here. You probably saw it in some ads here and there, but we really believe in this, really believe in this.
So I'm going to tell you the key takeaway for me from this part of the question is enjoy what you do. It makes the job a lot easier, and engage with the different personalities and actors in your teams. So these are important factors which I think drive success of the group. But we're going to go to Jose Luis because I was really keen to involve him, because mainly the perspective of somebody who is so close to Gibraltar, but yet sees it through different eyes. As a journalist by profession, having worked for some of the leading media outlets in Spain, like COPE and ADIA, what was your perception of Gibraltar as a place of business before you started working here?
Well, Gibraltar has always been seen in Madrid as a controversial site. After the time that I have been living in the region, as I told you, more than 15 years now, I have been able to verify that this vision is fundamentally based on a deep ignorance, not only of the place, but also the region that surrounds Gibraltar. From Madrid, and I would even say that from beyond the Campo de Gibraltar, which is the region around Gibraltar, one has a very wrong vision of what this part of the world is. And that vision is highly influenced by the political dispute between Spain and the UK over Gibraltar. Nothing to do with the reality as we face every day here in the region. Once you have settled in the area, you can see that Gibraltar is a very special place, a place where cultures, religions, nationalities, languages, as Jan said, Hyperion is an example about this diversity. They are very different from each other, no? But at the same time, they fit perfectly in the reduced space of 5 square kilometers. And precisely, I think that this meeting point of different ways of seeing the world gives Gibraltar such a broad vision of transformation and creation of new business opportunities. The lack of space for the installation of large industries, such as those precisely located on the other side of the border, no, in Spain. You have Cepsa, you have Acerinox. And the fact that Gibraltar is a peninsula surrounded by sea and only connected to the continent through a country which there is a political dispute has also made the Gibraltarians, that's my point of view, okay, have been enterprising when establishing themselves as an economic reference point. And of course, without forgetting that the tax advantages offered by the government of Gibraltar to the companies is always a good reason for attracting opportunities and offer a dynamic economy.
So thank you very much, Jose Luis. We're going to come back to you, Alfred. You've mentioned Wisdom Together and your work with this nonprofit organization, and you already started to address 3 challenges, which were environment, society, and within ourselves. So how do you feel these challenges have contributed to where we find ourselves today?
Well, let me go back to the summary what you did to what Jan and Jose just said. I think Thoreau, the American philosopher of the 19th century, he actually did a good saying. He was saying, do what you love and love what you do. And I think that brings us to the point where we say, think about where we are now and what is happening now. We're always trying to download and projecting that in the future, what experience we had in the past. And by doing that, we are not able to really innovate. And coming back to your current question, I think that is important, that we can develop this kind of ability to innovate by letting go and letting come is possible and is needed more than ever. So I believe if you're going back to our mechanistic view, which brought us to the point where we are right now, it's like we had this from Hobbes, this Homo economicus, who thought that humans are only actually into economics. Nowadays, dataism came in. Johari wrote a lot of books about this, the new religion, data, combined with the Homo economicus and combined with the notion of singularity, what Ray Kurzweil and the Singularity University in California are trying to promote, is merging biology with technology, which means you have an Homo economicus who have a chip in his or her brain, feed it with data, and then they believe that they will make the world a better place by doing so. I believe that the opposite is the case, because every big innovation which we have seen, and there are a lot of studies from Stanford and Harvard about this with Nobel Prize winners, is that it is not about data and it is not about our rational mind. It's actually our access to intuition. And if we are connected with our intuition, we can create something which is not have not been in your mind beforehand. And that is a notion where we have to come to. We are seeing a world right now where we are consuming about 1.5 or 2 worlds per year, if you cut it down of the resources. And so we have an environmental problem, even though everything of these discussions is covered right now by COVID-19. But I think that is the situation which we are still in. We do have a social divide where we see that I think 8 people in this world have access to more financial assets than the bottom 50% of our world population. And we have a high depression rate, especially for young people, increasingly going up. So what can we do with this situation? And I think COVID is helping us a little bit. We see that politicians who have never thought about that before are thinking about whether the globalization in terms of how we structured our supply chain is the right way to do it. Or if we should rather look a little bit more on the regional aspect, how we can take advantage of our regional potential, of the wealth which we are creating in our environment, really in our closer environment, and then connecting these hubs with each other on a global space. And that is globalization, but not, you know, trying to manage everything from a global perspective down to a local entity. And that is what we are doing with Wisdom Together, where we are in our conferences. We were in Russia, in Costa Rica, in Oslo, in Stockholm, in Munich, so in Latvia. So we were quite around the world, and we are bringing in scientists, business people, spiritual leaders, and artists to come together and think about how do we want to live together? How do we want to work together? How do we come to innovations? And in this regards, Yan and I came together, and Yan was Brightmed and his festivals in Gibraltar. We had actually a kind of similar approach to this as what he was saying was his company, that he said it's not necessarily focusing on how to make more money. It's more about thinking, you know, what are we going to do with that money? And how can we create wealth for everybody in this world? Or, you know, it doesn't mean that everybody should stay at the same level, because we are different and we should appreciate the difference. But to focus on what is the reason why we're making this money, and really taking the time to speak to the people and to develop something which is needed for this area. And I think I've been to Gibraltar once. I was invited, and I was grateful that I had the opportunity to speak there. And I think it's a wonderful spot where we could really think about what can we do there, because it's so small that it's not really important for the world, but it's important if we do something there that nobody really cares. It's that, oh yeah, that's too small. But if something new, innovative comes up, it can have an effect around the world. And you can see that in different countries. I was once in Bhutan, where I worked together with people of the Gross National Happiness Center there. We were in Costa Rica, where we did some things with the government there and some executives, where we thought small countries can have a big effect actually on the worldwide community. And the work which we did there had an impact on the development of the Sustainable Development Goals. So it triggers down. You know, don't underestimate what you can do as a single person, as a small region. And that is what we're trying to stimulate. That is something which we're trying to explore together with our clients when I'm doing coaching, together with people I'm coaching with, and saying, what is your potential? What do you really want? And how can we involve all the stakeholders and shareholders together to make that happen to the benefit for all?
That's wonderful. I think healthy open lines of communication is really what stands out in your answer there as well. So over to you, Yan. I have a question, but we also have in the Q&A box a comment and a question from the same person. So I'm going to let you reply to that first, because I think it's fun to engage with the people who are participating. We're going to try and answer all the questions in the Q&A as well as the questions that we prepared, but if time allows. So the first comment was, proverbs work better across cultures than jokes. So I guess that one was for you. But also later on, we'll talk a bit more about Brightmed and the different branches of what you've done with Brightmed. So I thought this would be an interesting question to ask you. What is the role of education in creating a new economy? Are we geared up for it? Do we have a clear set of skills that new leaders will need to have? So there you go.
Okay. We found out that I want to pick up on Alfred first, what he said. The title of this conversation is Building a Meaningful Economy. We're not trying to fool you at all. We are really focusing on meaning first of all. We have been, it took us ourselves, I'm referring to Jose Luis as well, a lot of time to understand, maybe I was not mature enough to understand that if I don't understand the culture, there will be no business. And then the world opened up to us. You cannot do business. You cannot have a meaningful economy. You cannot do an economy if you don't understand. And as clearly Alfred said, you are not trying to work meaningfully together. It's impossible. That's our opinion. And we stand by this all the time in every single little move. Our little Hyperion in the little Gibraltar moves, this is what we try to apply. As you said, it's an incredible lab, Gibraltar, where you can achieve things, but you have to move. You cannot just stay there. In terms of proverbs or jokes, I can argue the culture actually and the music, we always ask ourselves, what are the best languages to reach the souls? You know, we didn't discover it. We just did things and we found out that that was the one. And what was it? The music, for example. Some others would say that the smells are going to the soul very quickly, the higher and the quickest, but here we're taking too much risks. So music was definitely one of the best language. So that's for the proverb. Education, I was going to touch upon this after. When it comes to Gibraltar in particular, I hope that we all agree that without education, just forget everything. I used to live in a country, traveled in other countries, and I have to thank Europe in general for having offered me the possibility to study in good conditions. I didn't have the money to go and study in university. So I studied in France and it was for free. I owe France everything about education, which helped me to climb some ladders in social and economy in general. So when it comes to Gibraltar and education and the system, it's not just education, it's a real ecosystem that we have to put in place. We have a university now. I think we have globally good public schools, that's clear, but we tend to send our kids to UK for universities with a great support financially. And we have a new university which has been created, what, 4 years now? Maybe Carlos Martin somewhere in the chat could confirm this. It's not up and running in the sense that it doesn't offer full diploma and full cycles yet to be able to retain our own. One of the ideas and the moves in education is we have been with Jose Luis trying to influence a lot of the charitable trust or philanthropic trust to push their different initiatives. But these are little moves, and there's still a need for a very global approach to it. And it's definitely not enough in Gibraltar. The uni is there. It's a marvelous place. If you don't know it, please go and visit. But we don't have yet, unfortunately, the maturity, because it's simply very, very young. So education for us at all levels could be improved in Gibraltar, and the first steps would be, for example, when it comes to the festival or our company, we try to onboard people and young kids to come and do few days in our company. Many others do it, but that's the first link they can have with real businesses. They spend few days. Stephen Holland Morgan, for example, is usually in charge of taking them around with Gaynor Oliveira from our team, and making sure that they have tasted every single activity. The danger in our group is that sometimes everybody knows about Hyperion, but nobody knows what Hyperion is doing. It's too much. So we want these kids to come and really embrace all the different activities, and they come out with hopefully a higher vision of what they would like to do. In the Brightmed as well has a fully dedicated, and that's how we met as well, Alfred, event once a year called the Brightmed Talks. And in the room at Incest Hall, we have 300 students. It's packed. Actually, there's not enough seats. People are even sitting on the floor. And we're bringing inspiring thinkers from all over the world in different domains. It could be an artist, a thinker, a politician, a student itself who already moved seriously. So we're trying at our small level, but we are not Gibraltar. We are just a small company in Gibraltar. So we just hope that this inspires the neighbor and the competitor to try to do even more there.
That's great. I did have another question for you, a little bit more about what Hyperion has evolved with the launch of Just Real Estate, but we're going to hang on with that because I'm sure we can explore that a little bit later, because we have more questions coming in, and I wanted to talk to Jose Luis a little bit. I'm just going to add to that clearly education is a lifelong process. So the times we live in now, when everything is moving and changing so quickly, it's possible that the system that we have in place is not always the best prepared for it, but it also comes down to initiatives of, Brightmed Talks to learn from and absorb what else is happening, and these very important conversations. So over to Jose Luis, from your profession and a little bit of your experience. You've been doing the PR for Hyperion. So tell us a little bit about the processes for good communication within a business and how you have developed that.
Well, as Yan explained at the beginning of this webinar, Hyperion is a company with a very innovative philosophy, with activities that go from pure finance to culture, as we have seen now with Brightmed and the Gibraltar World Music Festival. And after more than 20 years in the media, working for a company like this one has been and continues to be a very interesting and enriching project for me. Not only from a professional point of view, but also from a personal one. The company's matters to communicate are always variable. Suddenly, you may be talking about a new real estate project, as we are doing now, for example, in the heart of Gibraltar, and suddenly you may be talking about the artist for the festival. Suddenly, not for this year. We hope to do something at the end before the end of the year, but why not 2021, no? And that makes both the audience you are addressing and the design of the message that you have to launch always different. So you have to think about how to communicate these different things, no? One good thing is that Hyperion already has a well-earned reputation in Gibraltar and is known as a company with innovative and successful projects. So it makes everything a bit easier, no, for us. On whether communication is important or not for a company, nowadays, I think that precisely we are living days where communication is vital for the companies, no, and for the future of a company. It is clear, no, that the important thing is to keep the company afloat in times of crisis. But precisely, if we do not make ourselves known among our potential customers, we will not be able to overcome, no? So in communication, I think it's a key factor for the companies.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Jose Luis. I'm just going to quickly look through the questions as I address Alfred again. I was going to ask you a little bit about staying connected and technology. And do you see there is now an opportunity for technology companies to better support innovation and creativity to bring more value to society? But there is also a question about how do you foresee the future of work in terms of staff working from home and its impact on your business or on business in general. So I thought maybe we could combine an answer for that question too from one of the participants. Dean, thank you very much for your question.
So I believe that technology has always played a role in the evolution of societies and development, personal development of people as well. And as Jose just mentioned, communication is a key part of that. And what we do right now is communication through the web and having the opportunity to bring people together without traveling. And letting other people participate in this kind of conversation from wherever they live. And I saw that people are from Munich here, there are people from Gibraltar, from Spain, from UK. So you can see that, that there is an opportunity of bringing people together. I think it should be in additional ways, because I don't think technology or this kind of calls can substitute the personal meetings. And but they can augment it and they can add value to it, and that is something we have to explore. For me, it wasn't really something new when COVID came and we said we have to work from home, because I was always very remote, active in the world. When I was working for Lycos in Boston, my shareholders were in Seoul, so I had to communicate with these folks, and I had companies where I was responsible for in Japan, and my family was living in Munich, so I was quite remotely working with them, handling time difference, time zones, and technology helped a lot by doing so. Also, of course, the search functions and technology like what you have with building business plans and scrumming sessions and bringing people into certain questions, expert in it, is possible these days. And there are a lot of tools which are out there, not only from the big ones, but more and more are coming also from the grassroots, which I found very exciting, that people can work wherever they are, coming together, and it's about, you know, bringing their new ideas into the world, and that is possible. One thing which I found always important, and I'm speaking to some social impact investment funds about it, and they're saying a lot of our investments went dust because, you know, the people were not able to deliver what they think they could deliver. And they were asking, why is that happening? And from my perspective, it's a question of maturity. It's a question of personal development level. And that is something where we developed a kind of a 1 year support in this with workshop sessions or retreat sessions, 3 in this year. We have coaches who are supporting these people on their personal questions. It's not about business acumen, and it's not about, you know, the financials. It's more about how can you bring your innovation and your idea adequately into the world, how can we use the circumstances where we are in? And that could be inside a bigger organization. We did that for Google once as well, where we developed how can an innovative idea can bubble up from the grassroots up to the top in Mountain View, but also with new ideas of the startup scenery. How can we encourage people to look into themselves and then develop what wants come out of them? And that innovation in combination with purpose and meaning is something which really becomes valuable for a lot of people. And then it becomes also financially substantial. So then it can, then profit will also follow. But, and that is something we are working on to support companies in thinking along those lines. And recently, we started a campaign with Japanese folks, the head of the innovation network in Japan, Kono Noboru, who has developed with a philosopher there the concept of bar, which is a concept where you're coming together and you forget all what you know before and trying to bring in design thinking methodologies as well as meditation techniques, really to think about what might come out. And out of this, new ideas can emerge. And they are working together quite closely with the government, with Sony, with Fujitsu, with big organizations, as well as with small companies. And I think this kind of initiatives, following Einstein's sentence, you cannot solve a problem with the same kind of thinking which have brought us to the problem. So to really change that mindset and attitude is very important. And that's why I think what Yan is doing there with Brightmed, for instance, in bringing artists in combining that with traditional thinking of, investment and bringing that together could be, from my perspective, something which a lot of people will ask for in the future, and could be something which would be well placed in Gibraltar, I can imagine.
Thank you, Alfred. We're going to come over to you, Yan. I'm getting so many questions, which means that people are finding the discussion very interesting. We touched before we started the discussion a little bit about the new process for Hyperion within the team to work from home. I'd like you to touch upon that a little, but also just to go back to the question that Dean was asking, but also touch upon maybe how you have communicated with your clients and your teams when all hell has broken loose around your business model. But I think that it's time that we kind of go towards the part about why you were so inclined to involve different cultures and the arts within your passion for what you do. So maybe if you can just give us a little bit of an overview on all those points, which I know is a lot, but I'm sure you can cover it.
Well, you have like 10 questions in one. Okay, why not? First of all,
looks like a journalist.
Yes. First of all, Hyperion, like many others, basically just suffered during the first days of the lockdown because the financial markets have gone down by 30% overnight. First of all, what do we do? The first thing to check really if we had the right value and the right people and so on, and I'm pleased to say that we have them. We have very experienced people at Hyperion, and I'm very happy about this, obviously. What did we do? First of all, we had a choice to isolate ourselves and say, it's a storm, let it pass, everything will be fine. It doesn't work like that, not only in financial markets, but with the clients. You must call the clients. It seems like a very, very simple and basic advice, but it's not our first crisis. And we saw for all the private bankers that are in the audience or others, that if you don't call your clients, you don't have the final solution, that's clear. You have to call the client and say, look, this is what's happening. I'm working on it, okay? We are in the same boat and we're gonna try to save everything. So some clients really lost 20% overnight in our portfolio. Maybe this is not great marketing to speak about it, but I'm telling you, we have done this. The good news is that they are at -5 today on average, okay? But where did it come? We have a process. We have people, our CIO and others, we were on the market every single day trying to see what we can do. And it came through, again, small moves and different touches on each portfolio and on each asset classes. For example, we are very much bond driven and invested in the allocation of our clients. And you could see that some names are going to go bankrupt, and they went bankrupt. But at the same time, you have a market which goes down by 30%. And many bonds of very good companies have suffered as well in terms of price. So there was an opportunity for the show to take some bonds, which actually are today at plus 20% just on the price. And it was just a panic effect. But some others will never come back and they are dead forever. So the daily trading and not just waiting behind an asset allocation, traditional from private banking, very rigid, which could be a disaster during that time. We basically moved on the two directions, really trying to go into the trading more. So that's what we did in terms of portfolios. And today, well, we promised our clients that we will try to go back to flat performance this year, which is a big achievement if we manage to. I don't think so. I think the markets are very optimistic, and the very immediate future until sometimes in 2021, and we don't know when, the market is going to do swings again and swings again. And to be fair, it's not new, it's just accelerated. The COVID is accelerating many other topics. We're talking about communication. Well, if you were not knowing Zoom, now everybody knows Zoom. So COVID, Zoom should thank COVID big time, and obviously Slack and Skype and WhatsApp and Microsoft, and Google, etc. So that's for the markets and Hyperion and how we basically navigate in the storm. But really the outcome is you must maintain the relation with your client. You have to report, you have to speak, not every day. Funnily enough, it's some clients just don't want to hear about it. During a month, there's a client who didn't want to answer his calls. He doesn't want to know. Well, the client is the king, so we respect it, but we never failed on the reporting. So that's for this part. On the real estate, maybe the first thing we did, and the team was excellent. You know, Gibraltar came with some measures and proposed immediately some businesses the landlords actually to waive 50% of the rent for April, May, and June for the businesses which are going to suffer, without really knowing, but they defined a certain number of sectors. We didn't wait. We saw some competitors really playing a tricky game, and this is not the future, believe me, because they're going to lose their tenants. We went to our tenants with obviously a big hit on our income, and we told them, we are going to apply it before you even ask for it. And guess what? We developed amazing partnership with them since then. And now we can ask them for tutorials and comments saying how good we are, blah, blah, blah. But it takes a lot of courage to take the phone and talk to them and say, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to hide and wait, okay? And anyway, the government did it very well. They basically said, you do it or we tax you 50% on the whole income anyway. So you had no choice. Still someone to play. There is no room to play here. Our staff didn't play. They are professionals, they just went for it. We didn't play in front of a client trying to overdo our marketing of I don't know what. There are realities. You have an opportunity, and that's what I hear from Alfred, to engage even more and show what you are paid for, really. And you're doing this extra mile in the middle of the crisis. We want, first of all, our boat to be safe. Every member is in the boat, staff and clients, to be safe. So we need to maintain the strength of Hyperion and carry on navigating. Of course, it's a storm. It will pass. Maybe not the 15th of June, maybe not the 1st of July, maybe not before the end of the year, but we have to aim for more. And this collaboration between this obvious collaboration between the client, the staff, the CEO, and the different stakeholders is absolutely important. One detail, someone came with this idea of, why don't we make a list of 10, 20 people of your network, and not talking about just the business network, but your family as well, during the COVID lockdown, and call them, ask how are they? How are you? Just that. I think this is what I did with Alfred, and here we are, by the way. I just said, okay, who means something for me? And I made a list, a long list, and I called the people and I sent an email and said, look, how are you? Actually, I care. I want to know. I really want to know. I didn't do it with thinking we're going to do a discussion now and it's going to be great. And so, no. And here we are. So we did collaborate that way because even if our cultures are very different, we approach each other on this field again, and we communicate simply. So this is always a very big a big story here. On the remote work, etc., because I'm trying to remember all your points. We don't have the perfect solution yet at Hyperion. We ask everyone to decide as well, to all the members of the staff to participate. And everyone came with an idea. So the moment you open the Pandora box, you receive 1 million opinion. But we thought to debate this was important. And as a result, I'm not talking about the very short term, meaning July, August, which we have like a crisis plan to come back to the office. You can imagine cleaning everything and making sure we have the social distancing and so on. But I'm talking here about, yes, it's very important that my colleague, part of what became my family, our team, can pretend having 1 day of respite or work, they decide once a week, and come back more energized, with actually more productive, that's the truth, to the work with even more strategic thinking, as I said. So we will see if it works, to be fair, because it depends very much on all of us and how much we respect, but I'm very confident. I'm actually really wanting to go out, because I'm dreaming about having an offsite with all of them somewhere in a different place, a form of retreat of maybe 1 day. We always dream about doing it in Tarifa. I think it's going to be now the real moment to do it, and have their conclusions, their philosophy, and their outcome of this crisis, because this is as well what we feed on and inspire us. It's not just what we just think, you know. Our intuition or our moves are fed by this collaboration all the time. What are the other points?
Well, we were going to talk a little bit about the arts and the culture and why it's important to you to engage with that, even though your business is completely different.
So culture.
Yes.
Okay. Culture. I think, funnily enough, what the whole thing started when I had real strong personal issues. My world was collapsing around me 10 years ago, sickness around, divorce, blah, 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 without going into details. And it was just finished. So it was a crisis. It was not just a virus. It was like everything was done, finished. And even work had no importance. Okay, so, and funnily enough, things came like the music, and I'm not a musician, so that's why I think everybody can do anything they want. I am not a musician. I have no idea about solfège, and I have no idea about how to read any partitions. This is incredible. And I started with a little page on Facebook, which was a joke, and 5 people were following me very nicely. Maybe they were scared of saying no. And after that, it became a few thousand. And I received calls from very inspiring people from all over the world saying, I followed you have a page on this type of music. I'm from New York, I'm a singer. I'm from Madrid, I'm a manager. I'm from Macedonia, I'm this and that. So, wow, what's happening here? The whole world is contained in one page. What's going on? So they inspired me to make a concert. Then we took it from there. And then, as you say in Spanish, sobre la marcha. So as we were working on the festival, we discovered that, of course, this language was just amazing. So we brought on stage. We didn't think we could be able to do that, really, none of us. But imagine Indians and Chinese together on stage singing. Imagine Greeks and Turks, Israelis and Palestinians, Chinese and Japanese together. It's every year these people came, and we were demonstrating every day that everything is possible we were driven as well when we created the Brightmed by this large amount of information from the Mediterranean and the Middle East and Asia Minor of Islamist groups trying to put bombs here and beheading all this. And we wanted to say, no, this is not what I experienced. I was born in a Muslim country as a Jew with a French and European culture, and I never had a problem. So I couldn't accept 1 second that this was the reality. It was obviously amplified by the media, and these groups who were doing these bad things were using and manipulating the communication fantastically. They were communicating fantastically, making sure that you can be very, very scared. So we wanted to demonstrate at our level only, from ourselves, that we could put all these people together and demonstrate every day that it is possible. And all this blah, blah is just a political game, basically, or wish to dominate a certain region or maybe some oil fields, etc., etc. So we're not that naive about it, but culture became the possibility to move forward on this. And very quickly, we realized that when in Gibraltar, people in the past, in fact, 10 years ago, were not going out necessarily for a concert that easily or for a conference or for an exhibition. Today, things have changed a lot, thank God. But that's why we decided to bet on the kids. And we gave every year this possibility to the kids to come and join. And they are incredible, full of energy, inspiring you more than you can inspire them, really. And we offered them all these profiles to talk and inspire them, because Gibraltar is a place where the individuals have actually at least 2 sounds, English and Spanish, okay? And the geography is quite obvious. It's a carrefour, it's a crossroad. You have 2 seas, Atlantic and the Mediterranean. So the symbols are huge. So they are already open. You just have to feed them as much as you can. If we have like 10 famous Gibraltarians all over the world today, we guarantee you that in the next 10 years, you're gonna have a multiple of this, if not 100, 1,000 very, very famous Gibraltarians. And you know that amongst the 10 that I'm referring to, these people have made an incredible career all over the world and are capable of anything. When you have this man that you probably know or not for the audience, who's always behind the Pope, whispering things in his ear, and he's actually Gibraltarian, he's the main translator to the Pope. Who knows about this, really? How much marketing do we make about this? When we have a Christian Hook, and I don't want to deny the other ones, as an artist, painter, who wins the UK Sky Art contest and sells now at I don't know how much each painting, same story. These people, you know, they had to fight to eat even 10 years ago. And I remember a story, everybody comes to the office and see, 8 portraits of Christian Hook, of the staff. Okay, fine. We didn't pay the price we should pay today because we cannot afford it. But at that time, Christian Hook and us, we had to exchange £400 to be able to live, really. And that's how it works. And then it inspired us to even identify emerging artists of Gibraltar. And we offered all our office building for an exhibition. So I'm sure you all have, again, it's not about talking about how much we're great and what we have done, but you have a lot of potential. Have you shared it with others? Have you spoken about it? Did you realize that everything is around you? It's not just about money. I would be a billionaire, maybe wearing an amazing watch and driving great sport car or whatever. Not interested at all. We, in this journey, really try to enrich every day and every day. And you can ask Jose Luis and the others, it's ups and downs. There are days where we really want to give up on all of this because we don't have the support or the financial support, etc. But here we are. You see, you're patient enough to let me speak a lot, and I can take it out. So here we are for the culture.
This is actually one of the comments from Gaina, who's part of the team in Hyperion, is that she can vouch for the fact that you are willing to listen, you're willing to engage, and you're willing to transition with your team rather than make the decisions, which she's commented in the chat that you are not just talking the talk, but Jose Luis and Yan also do the walking as well with the team. So that's a really nice addition. I'm just conscious that we've hit the 1 hour mark, and I think that we need to try and answer some more of the questions, and at the same time wrap up with some of the key issues that we have discussed today in terms of building a new and meaningful economy, and how you feel that this can be achieved in some key points. So I'm just going to go over to Jose Luis with one of the questions about political commitment and how the private sector can make sure that their initiatives find a way through into political implementation.
Look, what Hyperion is doing with Brightmed could be an example for the politicians, no? How the private sector invest and support culture and education should be an example for the governments, not Gibraltarian one. All of them. You can see, for example, that culture in Spain is suffering because of the lockdown and because it has been out of the help from the government since the beginning. And if you don't have culture in your society, it's a risk. It's a total risk. And they should focus, now that everything is going well, or at least a bit better, they should focus on invest again in culture and education. Okay, it's good that the companies have to maintain their business, or the companies, but you need to plant the seed on our kids, because they are going to be our future. And if they don't have this part of the society, which is the culture and which is the education, which world are we going to have? Are we going to have in the next few years? Is everything, as Jan said, for example, are they going to want to drive a red Porsche or a red car, but without values? I don't think so. It's not what we want. What I want for my daughter. I want my daughter, for example, to think that there are all the things that money, there is family, there is a lot of worlds in the books that she's reading now, that is where she can travel with the books. And that's what we should do. And that's what the government should do. And if companies such as Hyperion or the sponsors that have been with Brightmed and the Gibraltar World Music Festival from the beginning continues doing it, governments like the Gibraltarian one will see it's a good thing to do, and they will carry on.
So I think that to answer the question a little bit more directly, just adding in a little bit of my experience, is that sometimes you just have to take your own initiative first. If you really believe that this is an initiative that is going to bring value, and that is a way to eventually get support from private sector, sponsorship, supporters, governments, in a more long-term view. So I'm going to just let Alfred give us some of his closing key points about building a meaningful new economy today, so that we can start to wrap up the session. I'm sure people are getting hungry and they need to switch off at some point. So please, Alfred, just give us some of your key points.
Thank you for giving me the chance to speak here after this interesting words about culture, because in Stanford Business School, the professors are leading the economic courses with the saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And the one or the other of you might have heard that, which means that culture is important on several levels, as Jose mentioned, on a society level, but also on a company level. And to combine this means, and that is one of the key points, that culture is happening inside of you as a human. So if you know who you are and being authentic, what you want to achieve, what you want to do in life, that is the way how you can support or how you can create a new experience for culture. So, and then everything else will come apart. So you're inviting people and creating a context, either inside of a company, inside of an organization, inside of a society, where you're inviting people with an interesting topic, with an interesting approach, which is touching people not only in their hearts, but also in their heads, but also in their hearts, to combine our rational mind with our intuition or our heart. And if you can do that, then things will be successful. And then I believe that we probably have the chance to solve a lot of the problems which we are solving right now. We will see in the upcoming 6 or 12 months probably a lot of distractions in our social life, in our economical life. And I tend to try to see that as an opportunity to think about what does it mean for our culture? How do we want to live together? What can I give? How shall we collaborate with each other? And how shall we create communities supporting each other in companies, in organizations, as individuals? And what kind of culture is important to create such an environment, which then from there we can build a new society in which we want to live in. And I see this kind of thoughts here and there around the world, everywhere. And that is what makes me grateful that I can live in this extremely interesting times. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Alfred, and thank you for joining us, because it really is refreshing to be able to connect with people from all over with such different perspectives. I'm going to go over back to Yan. There's a few questions here that I'm going to just try and get you to cover in your closing key points also. Some of them are about the evolving of the business model. Some of is future music events and how you feel they're going to be post the virus. And obviously your key views on the building of the meaningful new economy.
On the music side, obviously, we were told that there would be no support for 2020, which we understand very well, and it's the case everywhere else. I'm so pleased to see that Germany yesterday saw an article that they're investing 50 billion euros into companies involved in culture. So I'm so impressed, and they are leading probably this new way, and they understood, hopefully. So what do we do? Simply during the lockdown, we didn't know, but we organized a lot of online discussions in very specific genre of music, like the Sephardic music. We've done already some. We have another one next Thursday. And it helped us to, and okay, it's not a scoop, but why not? The theme of the festival of this year was supposed to be called, it was supposed to be a word that we hear in the streets of Gibraltar all the time. It's actually couchame. No, normally people in Gibraltar, when you walk down the streets, mainly when people cross the border, you hear people and you see them touching each other all the time, say couchame, couchame. In fact, it is escúchame, which means listen to me. And we thought it would be wonderful to use this for the festival as a theme. And we spell it Kushame. And Tito Vallejo, who's a specialist of the Llanito, which is the local dialect for the region of Gibraltar, has accepted the spelling. He actually, why not one day put it in the new dictionary of Llanito? What a privilege at our level, you know? So of course, if we were in the States on the English dictionary or in England, it would be different, but we're very happy about this. So we're organizing actually from the 2nd of June, every Tuesday or Thursday, depending on the week, a couchame session, meaning we are actually allowed now to call any artist of the world, anywhere. And if they say yes, they can come for an interview of 30 minutes and you can access them and make questions and answers. So we're starting this online, which means we're going to actually gather more contents. For example, all our contents for the last 8-9 years have been given to GBC and the Gibraltar Cultural Services. And every day since the lockdown, they do project at 2 p.m. something about the Brightmed talks or the concerts and so on. So why? Because in fact, because we are a modest festival and Madonna on a daily basis, we could control our contracts and get better rights than the others and be able to show you wonderful artists from all over the world, from Mali to Turkey, from India to Japan, etc., etc. So that's on the music and the future. We are confident that we will do the festival next year, and it's going to be called Kushame because everything is aligned and ready. And Kushame is wonderful because it's a pretext to bring to you all kind of music in one, more than just a specialized gender. And if you don't mind, I would like to say just a few words about Gibraltar for the economy. So I'm looking at it from our perspective in Gibraltar. Gibraltar has managed, I can say so far, fantastically the crisis. And thank God we don't have that many cases, although the unlocking will probably show cases, but it's so well managed by the government. I just hope this will be an opportunity to really assess our own values and really start to move. There's an urgency on this. I'm very impressed by the decisions about closing some roads to make the environment and the traffic, environment better, the traffic less. And well, okay, the problem is that, sometimes they have the impression that they need to make announcing effects very, very quickly, and they have to come back to their announcement and check and consult with the real about the real damages possible. But we have really an opportunity because Gibraltar has all the ingredients. You have heart in Gibraltar. People have a big heart. They have big hospitality, not only knowledge, but value and will to welcome other people. Imagine, for example, I'm just dropping an idea, but you can adapt this to so many other things. We have been shining for many reasons. We were an old offshore platform with a bad reputation, and the work which has been done for the last 25 years is very big to place us into an onshore, clean, I insist, very clean place in terms of financial assets. So we have the possibility now to shine in many, many other things. We spoke about culture, that's one thing. Imagine if we were offering such crazy, amazing tax-friendly packages to, I don't know, doctors and specialists and open a research center here. We cannot grow tomato on the rock, that's quite clear. We cannot have the best wine of the world. We have only a few square meters. We have a lot of tunnels. We don't really know what to do there, to grow cannabis or not. These are opportunistic moves. It paid a lot for Gibraltar so far, but I think a much longer term vision can bring us something amazing. So bringing specialists and offering this and the possibility to research in Gibraltar, why not in 10 years having the most brilliant research center in Gibraltar? It can be adapted to any other type of corporation or domain. It can be the hub for philanthropy in Europe. It can be, etc., etc., etc. So we can multiply the story. But there's an urgency to, as well, when we have such an amazing online gaming sector, e-money, blockchain, and so on, you still filling your tax reporting by hand, and you have to put it in an envelope and go to the tax office and put it in a mailbox, and you have no receipt, you have no idea if you're going to lose it or not. You still have to fill a form in writing for obtaining a license with the OFT, the Office of Fair Trading. You still, for the ETB, the employment, you still need to fill forms in writing. This is not possible. We are the kings of the blockchain, and at the same time, we have this paper. So these are obvious digital moves we can do because we will attract even more company who will be delighted to live in Gibraltar. A place with the rule of law, where people have heart. And I insist on the heart because I spent so much time in hospitals for for me or others, and I saw people being numbers in great hospitals, either in France, Spain, UK, Switzerland, or Morocco, to give an idea. But in Gibraltar, you're not a number. They do care. It's incredible, and that cures 50% of the disease, believe me. So this is an ingredient of Gibraltar. And of course, all these tax-friendly packages where you come to us, you have to pay tax, but a bit less than elsewhere, is a fantastic, as José Luis mentioned before, a fantastic possibility to create your new business and take it even to Europe or to a stock market, which we have a lot of examples. So that's not in a nutshell, unfortunately, the type of things we can say. Maybe you want to say something about what we discussed the last few weeks with a lot of anxiety and energy and fights.
Well, I always have a lot to say too, but I tend to prefer to let the people who are in the discussion to take the lead. I will give some closing thoughts too to the conversation, but I think just on the note of local talent for such a small place, and also on the ability we have to be agile and to communicate quickly. I think there is another example of a local microbiologist who came up with the COVID-19 testing machine that could provide results in 5 minutes. And we were provided in Gibraltar with this machine because Dr. Nick Cortes, who is working in the UK in a lab, just happens to be Gibraltarian. And that is clearly amazing on a population of 30,000 people. So we have to really push more for people who are talented to shine through, as you mentioned before. But just to close, I want to give José Luis an opportunity to give us his closing thoughts on how we should progress in society and how we can do better.
Well, I cannot do it better than my colleagues, Alfred and Yan. I cannot say anything better than what they have said. The only thing I could do is to remember that if we want a better world post-virus and we shut down the culture, it will not be a better world. That's my main key.
Okay.
You're on mute, Denise.
So there has been a few comments about a second session as we are now finishing off this session. Again, just to say thank you so much for your insights and for sharing professional, personal stories with us today. I definitely think that this could become a series of seminars as we give people the opportunity to hear and engage with new ways of thinking. My key takeaways from this discussion will be make people feel good about themselves. They become so much more productive if you listen to their needs. And also to offer to give before you expect anything is also something. Giving back to your community, giving back to different initiatives is also something that will, at this moment, need to be retained as we move forward. So that's my small contribution from what I've heard today. Just thanking everybody for joining. Thank you for everybody who has supported us in organizing this seminar. And we just look forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much and see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.